So, now we will talk about a very interesting concept in these managerial skills for interpersonal dynamics, and that is the fundamental interpersonal relationship orientation behavior, FIRO B. This is highly recognized and practically found a very effective concept, and I would like to share with you this particular concept with the help of understanding the interpersonal relations, introduction to FIRO B, evolution of these particular concepts, types of behavior, FIRO B model. First, we will try to understand what is meant by the interpersonal relations. Interpersonal relations denote the relations between a few, usually between two people. Normally, whenever we are talking interpersonal, so it is between the two people according to the Heather 2013. How one person feels and thinks about others, how he or she perceives him, what he does to him, what he expects him to do or think, and how he reacts to the actions of others. So, it is all about the other person, that is the how he thinks, how he will react, how he interacts. Beyond our physiological needs for food and safety, we have some interpersonal needs also, because we are human beings and therefore people need people. In my earlier lecture also I have mentioned that is the involvement, and involvement is the very important concept in interpersonal relationship. If you want to develop the strong relationship, so naturally you have to involve others, and therefore the people need people. For he Schutz have given in 1977, he has given these concepts of the inclusion. In the when we talk about the interpersonal needs, it is a need of inclusion, control and affection. So, inclusion, control and affection that strongly motivates us. I will discuss in detail about these three particular concepts. Interpersonal orientation. So, when I talk about the inclusion, control and affection, ICA, and when I talk about the interpersonal orientation, that is the IO. So, interpersonal orientation refers to the individual's differences in preference for social interaction. It means every individual is having the different preference for the individual, right. The influence of individual orientation depends on the nature of complementarity within the interpersonal context. It will be more easier to understand with the period of time, and you will find when I will discussing the further slides. So, you will find that is the in the preference for the social interaction of the every individual, as I mentioned, is totally different. So, his the expectation from other, his inclusion, his control and his affection preferences will be different. It is a question of the preference by the one person to the another person, and therefore, that nature of the complementarity that will be discussed in the further slides, which will talk about, that is how this is becoming more and more important in the interpersonal context. The word FIRO, fundamental interpersonal relations orientation, is the name of a theory of interpersonal relations introduced in 1958 by the Schutz first time 1958. Interpersonal relations has been expanded to include all levels of human organizations, including the individuals, and therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is the whatever the human beings are there, it is including the all levels of human beings, maybe the couples, maybe the groups, maybe the organizations and maybe the nations. So, in the all levels of these human beings, therefore, there is a very important concept, and that is the interpersonal relationship orientation. So, that is the fundamental interpersonal relationship orientation that becoming very important. The primary purpose for developing the FIRO B is to construct a measure of how an individual acts in interpersonal situations. It is very interesting. In a given situation, a person behaves in a particular way, and therefore, if you understand the person's personality, if you understand the person's orientation in this context, you can imagine, that is, if this will be the situation, what will be his orientation. For this form of FIRO, it was decided to concentrate on how a person behaves rather than how he feels. Now, we have to understand the difference between the feelings and the behavior. So, feelings is the state of mind, while the behavior is action, and therefore, how a person will behave in a given situation, that we have to see. And it simply represents the things being measured, that is how the things are being measured, how an individual characteristically relates to the other people. So, one person's characters, like in this context we are talking about, that is the inclusion, control and affection, and there is a situation, a given situation is there. In a given situation, how person will react, and that will be the orientation of the particular person in developing the individual's characteristics, in developing the interpersonal relationships. Here the study has been done on the level of behavior, and these areas were called inclusion, control and affection, as I mentioned earlier also. Also on the level of feelings, the corresponding concepts were significance, competence and likability, that is also have been studied. Scales were developed to measure the expressed and wanted. So, therefore, these are the two terminologies which are becoming very important, that is the expressed and wanted aspects of these areas. The measure of the behavior was called FIRO B, fundamental interpersonal relationship orientation behavior. The measure of feelings, that is the FIRO F. So, when we are talking about the FIRO B, it is the measuring the behavior, and when we are talking about the FIRO F, it is a fundamental interpersonal relationship orientation of the feelings. How these concepts have been evolved? Evolved over the several years. Schultz first in 1955, then 1958, 1967, 1977, 1984 and 1988. In this way he has evolved and modified this particular concept. In 1976, successfully testing of the theory on over 6,000 people from the public school community was done. The theory extended to include the human body as the basis for the describing why people choose to succumb to particular illness, such as function of their unconscious conflicts in the areas of inclusion, control and openness. So, therefore, it is up to that extent, that is the whatever disease is there, why the people have gone to succumb for that particular disease. In 1984, the FIRO theory was used to organize the major theories of family therapy, that is given by the Doherty and Colangelo in 1984. So, this was further this study was used in the 1984, and then what has been used as the basis for classifying approaches for decision making and to define a new method of decision making, that is called concordance by the Schultz in 1987. So, this way the concept has been evolved. Now, when we talk about the express behavior, what does it mean? Express behavior means the extent to which you prefer to initiate a behavior and what your comfort level is when engaging in the behavior associated with the need areas, and therefore, it is becoming the preference to initiate a particular behavior, and then you are making a comfortable level when you are engaging with the need areas are there. So, therefore, you express and you satisfy that particular need. Wanted behavior, the level of behavior that you would like to receive from others. Like you will find when we are talking about the express behavior, in the express behavior it is a preference to initiate a behavior, while in case of the behavior, when we are talking about the wanted behavior, that like to receive from others. Wanted behavior are not visible, and as a result people will often make assumptions about what is wanted. So, therefore, in that case, whenever there is a wanted behavior is there, you are keeping in mind that is the what are the assumptions about what is wanted based on an individual's expressed behavior. So, whatever has been expressed, actually this is giving an indication that is what is wanted by that particular person. Now, when we talk about the inclusion, this need indicates how much you generally include other people in your life and how much attention, contact and recognition you want from others. So, therefore, again when we are talking about the inclusion, so inclusion will be, that is the how much do you want to include the other persons in your life, and also that is the how much attention, contact and recognition you want from others. So, therefore, actually you express and how much you want. Inclusion is about you in relation to groups small or large. So, therefore, it is always, as I mentioned, maybe between the two people, or it can be more than two people, and it can be a group also. So, there is an express behavior, there is a want behavior. Now, express inclusion and express and want inclusion, express inclusion and want inclusion. Inclusion refers to the individual's social orientation and the extent to which a person associated with others. So, therefore, in that case this will talk about his social orientation and how he is with a person is associated with others is there. High express inclusion indicates that the individual is more comfortable in social environments, right. So, therefore, it becomes very important, that is the how express inclusion is there, that is more comfortable in the social environment. So, high express inclusion will be always, that is the he is making the more and more inclusion and becoming more successful in the society. Low express inclusion suggests that individual is uncomfortable around people. So, many people like you will find in the society, for example, in the marriage or in birthday parties. So, they are not that much interactive with the rest of the guests. So, why it is so? Because it is the low expressed inclusion is there. High wanted inclusion is interpreted as the individual having a greater need to be accepted and therefore and belong. So, therefore, high wanted inclusion will be, there will be a greater need to be accepted, while low wanted inclusion suggests greater selectivity with regards to who the individual establishes the relationship with. So, therefore, in that case, that is the there will be certain people, those who are having the very greater selectivity to whom they want to develop a relationship. So, therefore, in that case they may not be wanting, that is there should be a more relationship is to be there. Then it comes about the control, about the inclusion, then next is the control. This need indicates how much influence and responsibility you want and how much you want others to lead and influence you. So, therefore, in that case it is always a person's interest, that is how much he want and how much the other person want to lead and influence your behavior. So, means how to control. Control is about both you one-to-one relationships and your behavior as a part of a group also. Control also called as influence here in this context. So, therefore, high express control suggests that the individual is comfortable taking responsibility. So, therefore, when a person expresses the high control, so he is ready to take the responsibility. Low express control reflects a desire to avoid decision making, and therefore, those who are having the low express control, they will be having the desire to avoid the decision making. High wanted control reflects a disposition to accept control from others, while low wanted control indicates that the individual does not want others to control them. So, therefore, in that case whenever there is a high control is there, that is the they reflects a disposition also to accept the control from others, while low wanted control is there. So, therefore, indicate that individual does not want others to control them. So, therefore, they are not interested to be get control. After inclusion and control, I would like to talk about the affection. This need indicates how close and warm you are with others and how close and warm you want others to be with you. And therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is the how much affectionate personality you are, how much the closeness you want from others, and whether you want the closeness and from others or not. So, affection is about the need to establish comfortable one-to-one relationship, and here you will find that it is becoming a very important to establish a comfortable relationship with the others. Affection reflects the extent to which an individual becomes emotionally involved. So, whenever you are having the high affection, then in that case definitely you are more emotionally involved and is concerned with the need to establish meaningful relationships. So, therefore, in that case it becomes very important that there is a need to establish the meaningful relationships. It is positively associated with the extraversion and facets of the agreeableness, and it becomes very important, that is they are associated with the extraversion and the facets of the agreeableness. Low expressed affection suggests that the individual is less comfortable establishing close and intimate relationship, while high expressed affection indicates that the individual is more driven to establish meaningful relationships. So, therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is the whenever there is a high expressed affection is there, individual is more driven to establish meaningful relationships are there. So, naturally in the society, in the group, you will find the people with the high expressed affection, they are more interactive. While in the case of the low expressed affection is there, they are having the less comfortable establishing close and intimate relationship is there. So, they are not very much interested in the high intimacy. Individuals with higher level of wanted affection are comfortable when others initiate relationships. So, therefore, high level of wanted affection is there. Low wanted affection suggests selectivity in establishing relationships, and the lower emotional involvement is there, and therefore, in that case they are having the low want is there to develop an emotional involvement is there. So, now let us summarize, that is the what characteristics association with needs are there. In inclusion, there are the distinction, there are the recognition, participation, involved and acknowledgement is there. These will be the characteristics which will be associated with the in case of the inclusion is there. What will be the in case of the control? Control, the characteristics will be the power, whether high or low, but power. Then directive, they will be high directive oriented, they will be low directive oriented. They are decisive, low or high. Responsible, always, because they are having the control, therefore, this particular characteristics of the responsible is there, because they want to control. So, therefore, they feel they are responsible also, they take the responsibility ownership, and then there is a consistent, therefore, they will be always going for this particular type of the control behavior. When we talk about the affection, so affection will be supportive. So, those people, those whether they want affection or those who express affection, and here you will find that is they are more and more supportive in their behavior. Whenever there is a consensus oriented, then definitely in that case you will find that is the particular character is they are always consensus oriented are there, those who are high affection oriented is there. The affection people, whether high or low, they are sensitive, they are having the faithfulness, because it is whether the express affection or the want affection is there. So, faithfulness will be always there in their behavior, and definitely they will have the closeness in relationships, and therefore, in that case they will try to tie up the relationship with the others. So, in FIRO B model, when we talk about the inclusion, so inclusion, I want other people to include me in their activities and to invite me to belong. So, therefore, it will be inclusion wanted behavior type of personalities, where the people will be wanted to include their activities and to invite them to belong to a particular affection. I enjoy it when others notice me. So, therefore, in that case, because they are included, right, either they have been included or they are including, and therefore, they enjoy while they when they find that others are noticing them. Expressed, I make an effort to include others in my activities, and therefore, in that case the person who is having the expressed inclusion, he will always try to include the other persons in his activity. I try to belong, to join social groups and to be with others as much as possible. And therefore, in that case it will be always there, that is the he will like to join the social groups there and to be with others as much as possible he is. Now, whenever we are talking about the control, the first we will see that is the what is the behavior in the wanted control. I feel comfortable in well defined situations. I try to get clear expectations and instructions, and therefore, in that whenever I want that is somebody has to control me, then if the want behavior of control is there, I will be looking for the clear expectations and instructions in the behavior. In the express control, I try to exert control and influence over things. I enjoy organizing things and directing others, and therefore, in that case it will be always there, that is the I put exert the efforts to control the over others, and therefore, organizing the things and directing others, and that becomes an important express control behavior is there. Then affection. I want to others to act towards me with warmth. I enjoy when others share their feelings with me or when they encourage my efforts, and therefore, in that case I feel more happy and I feel more enjoy whenever the people those who are acting with me and they are showing the warmth behavior towards me, and when they have the feelings with me and always say that is yes you are doing good and they are encouraging me. While when we talk about the expressed affection, in the expressed affection I make an effort to get close to people. So, therefore, I try to be getting the more close to the people, and I am comfortable expressing personal feelings, and I try to be supportive of others, and therefore, in that case the persons those who are having the expressed affection, they have the effort to get close to the people. Always they try to make the comfortable expressing the personal feelings are there, and they will be more and more expression of their personal feelings will be there. So, they show their concern, their love and affection to the others, the people, the persons those who are close to them are surrounding to them, and I try to be supportive of others, and therefore, in that case you will find that he is becoming very much supportive. Finally, I would like to conclude these particular dimensions of this FIRO B in this by this particular slide. For example, when we are talking about the inclusion. In inclusion, you find that is the recognition, there is belongingness and there is a participation. So, whenever there is a recognition, belongingness and participation, so then in that case you will find that is becoming the part of inclusion is there. So, in earlier slide also I have mentioned that is it has to be the recognition, belongingness and the participation by the oneself. While in case of the control, it is the influence, the characteristics associated with the controls are influence, that is how they are going to influence, how they are going to lead and what responsibility they are ready to take. And third will be the affection. In the case of the affection, it is becoming the closeness to affection, warmthness to the affection with the other persons and sensitivity of that particular person is there. So, on this axis you will find that is the inclusion, control and affection is there. While when we are talking about here in this direction, we find that is the expressed behavior. In the expressed behavior means what I prefer to do. So, I express that. How much I initiate, whatever I initiate, I do that particular express my behavior is there, and observable action is there. So, whatever is to be done, I have the observable action is there. Now, here interestingly you will find that is this EI, right. This EI express is the in this particular cell, right, you will find it is the EI cell is there. EI cell means that is the express behavior with the inclusion is there. Whenever we talk about the control, it is the express behavior with the control is there, and therefore, we will say it is the EC, and there is an express behavior with the affection. So, we will say EA. So, total express behavior if you want to see, then it means that express behavior with inclusion, express behavior with control, and express behavior with affection. So, whenever person is having the expression for the inclusion, control and affection, we will say it is a total expressed behavior. Whenever we are talking about the wanted behavior, what is the wanted behavior? Wanted behavior is how much I want others to initiate, how much I prefer to be the recipient from the others, to be get initiated. So, it will be WI, then WC and WA, means want inclusion, want control and want affection is there. Here whenever we are talking about this particular WI, WC, WA, and so total wanted behavior will be WI plus WC plus WA. When we talked about the expression, it was EI plus EC plus EA. So, here we were talked about WI, WC plus WA, total wanted inclusion, total wanted control and total wanted affection is there. But in these dimensions if we see, so we find the total inclusion because it is the EI plus WI is there. So, whether the person is having how much he is having the total inclusion, that express inclusion and wanted inclusion. Similarly, it is applicable to control, express control and wanted control is there. And in affection also it will be the wanted affection and expressed affection and wanted affection. So, the total affection will be EA plus WA. So, you can find out what is your orientation. Either your orientation is the total expressed orientation, either your orientation is the total wanted orientation, or whether you are having the inclusion orientation which more, or the control orientation more, or the affection orientation is more. So, therefore, it is a very significant contribution in the era of interpersonal relationship that whenever we talk about, it becomes very important whether you are the expressing personality or wanted personality, whether you want inclusion or you express inclusion, whether you express control or you want control, and similarly you can also know whether you are having the express affection or orientation of personality or the wanted orientation of the affection personality. And this is what about the first part of this FIRO B's introduction is there. I will conclude here for this particular session. Thank you.